Sometimes it might rain, sometimes it might snow. Sometimes you might cry, be sad, you know what that's shades of a man, baby. Shades of a man. Shades of a man. Sometimes you might stop, sometimes you might go. You might make mistakes, but that's just how you grow. Shades of a man, baby. Shades of a man. Shades of a man.
What's up, people? It's Joaquin, your host, and it's another Shades of a Man podcast. Today, I have this wonderful, beautiful guest. I'm going to say it, Dr. Tamara Smith. What's up?
Not much. I'm here. What's up, Joaquin? Thank you for
Nothing
having
much.
me.
I'm so, before we get rolling in this podcast, I'm so happy and blessed that you have decided to join me on this podcast. It's really an honor. I think I say this about all the guests I bring on here. It's like I feel so privileged to have people like you within my circle. Years back, I looked around myself and I was always looking at the people on TV and the people I inspired to be like. And then I started looking at the people that I was around like consistently, and I was like, wow, I'm around amazing people on a daily basis, and you're one of those amazing people.
Thank
So
you.
all right, and I love you in the way that people should love each other. If that makes sense to you. That's not saying that you want to be with you. There's a significant difference. I understand. So
I know.
You can blush a little. We're in red, so you know. There it is. Apple. Okay. So today's episode, it really hits home with myself personally because the whole episode is about loss. But it's not only about loss. Like, we're not here to grieve. We're here to let people know and help people understand that there's life after grieving and there's life during grieving. And to be honest, I personally, some of my losses, I still grieve because, like, there's things that happen that remind me and that bring me back to those days of voices or dreams or situations or driving by places, all those things. So, I want to share a poem about my best friend. And, I would say he's my best friend, but, when you're a kid, you got like 50 best friends. So he's one of my best friends. There was a time where we were inseparable in our lives. And I lost him at age, I was 19, he was 18, or I was 20, he was 19. I lost him to gun violence. And this poem's for him. So there it is. We'll read this poem, and we're going to get into the deep stuff. Sean, damn, you're gone. It's been so long. Thoughts of you still live on. We grew up too fast. I am a prisoner of my past, reminiscent of doing flips on the grass. The pill, my world shattered like glass. The broken pieces became cuts. During rough times, you held me up like struts. A hole in my center, an old-fashioned donut. This world we live in is nuts. 19 is too young to die. Why am I still alive? Do I deserve to be here? Give me a sign. Why you're gone? And why did I survive? You were a father, a brother, a son, a friend, far from perfect. But while living, we transcend. Why? Tell me why did your life have to end? Still my thoughts cry through this pen. When you hear that poem, like what do you think about? Like, what's the first thing?
You know what? Just listening, I realized that people grieve differently. You know, some of the questions you're asking yourself in the poem, you know, why did you have to go? Why didn't I go? You were so young. Just thinking about lost time and have memories. So that resonated quite a bit with me. So I can relate to that. Some of what you said, actually.
And people, I'm going to get into all of Dr. Tamara Smith's accolades as we move on. And the reason why sometimes I don't introduce the guests and all that accolades, because I want you to kind of roll with us through the podcast. Because Dr. Smith wasn't born Dr. Smith. So you can say, oh, she's this, she's that, she's all these things. Then it's like, I don't think you can really appreciate the growth. So that's why I didn't introduce her like, oh, Dr. Smith, she did. She does. I'm sorry for the modest introduction, but all that stuff's going to come out as we go along. All right. So for anyone experiencing deep loss, you know what it means to miss someone with every breath. So, but with Tamara, I'm going to go back in her life, right? Because, like I said, life don't start. I want you to go back like 20 years ago. So let's go back to year 2005. Like, what was your everyday life like in 2005?
That's quite a bit. That's over 2 decades ago. Well, 2005, I thought I was living my best life. I had 2 children, I was married, and I had a house full of other children that I inherited along the way because of my children. And I was a soccer mom, a football mom, and I was a homemaker, cook, wash, clean, but still, have a career. So life then for me 20 years ago, I thought at that time that this is the best thing I had, it was my perfect little world that I wouldn't have traded for anything.
So
my daughter was 20 years ago, my daughter was 1 year old. So can you imagine just having a baby and it was a girl? And before that, the house was filled with, boys, my son and his friends. And so it was something new. It was new, yet I embraced it. It was at that time for me life and the life that God had given me. And I was just so blessed to be able to be a mother and a wife and, being able to care for other people's children. I lived for that.
So 2 things. So one question is did you have a caravan, like a soccer mom caravan? You were like a
No, I didn't have, you know what? I wish I had one of those caravans. I didn't have a caravan. So I'd have to make a couple trips or, the back seat would have, my car would have 3 and my son in the front. And then I would, if I'd make trips because my kids played in the local town sports. So it wasn't hard to get around to and fro unless they have out of town matches, which definitely put a little strain on transportation. So. Which I did back then, though.
So mom of 2 plus all the other kids, wife, right? You said wife,
Yep.
2005 wife. Okay, so another responsibility. And you held down a career?
Yep, I sure did.
And at that time, did you have a bachelor's, master's? Like, where were you? Like high school diploma? Like what?
You know what? At that time, I had my master. I had my bachelor's degree, and I was working, and I was pursuing my master's degree at that time too.
Okay, so juggling all these tasks, all these responsibilities, and still working on your master's. Wow, that's a lot. So that's a lot. So stop 20 years ago. Don't and it's hard to do this, but you can't forecast like what has happened. But when you at that 20-year part, like what did you think when you turned 50, when you started thinking about 50, 55, 60, what did you think life would be like at like 50, 55, 60?
For sure, I knew that I would have a good life. That's something I envisioned. I'm pretty sure by 50, I'm a grandmother. My son was one of those, boys, what, okay, he likes a lot of girls. So I definitely would be having a, grandbaby around that time. I envision my kids, being grown, college for my daughter, my son having his own life. Uh, he'll be 32 years old. And I would be getting to the place where I'm focusing more on me a little bit more rather than all the kids and spending more time, with me in addition to the new addition of the, hopefully the grandkids. But I thought at 50, my life would be surrounded with family. I would have my perfect world with my children and my career.
Yeah. So as we all know, life never never goes the way we anticipated, good, bad, or indifferent. Like sometimes we're struggling and something amazing happens, and vice versa. And so you're moving, you're, move, you're moving forward. So 2005, 2010, the 2010, were you still married?
Yes.
2010, you're still married. And 2012, 13, like what year, what, because I guess I kind of want to take the people through it. Um, let's go to the day before. Like, do you remember like the last words that that you said to your son the last time you seen him? Is that something
Oh,
that
absolutely. I never forget. I love you.
so and that's so important like to say that because I think me personally, I don't say I love you enough. And I've been practicing of late. Like I've been telling my friends I love them, just calling up and saying it because you never know like you can't predict the last I love you. You don't want to be saying I love you because it might be the last, but you can't predict the last I love you. So I'm glad you got to say that. And kind of walk me through like that day, like or night. I don't know if it was day or night.
It was a day, funny enough, that morning we spoke. I was kind of wake him up in the morning I wasn't at home, for a few days. So I would be calling home just to make sure everything was as it should be, especially with him being the troublemaker in the family. So I remember calling him that morning just to check to make sure he's up for work. So he spoke to me on his way to work. I checked in again, and last thing we said, I love you. And I said, I love you. Drive good. Be home soon. I'll see you later. And he said, yes, mom. Love you, Mama Dukes. And that was it. And fast forward, that was in the morning. Fast forward a couple of hours, around 3 o'clock. I was on my way from out of town, my husband and I, and we got into the house, just dropped my bag, and I got a call from the hospital saying that my son was in an accident and they'd like me to come to the hospital now. So I immediately I'm in and I'm out again. And I just went to the hospital, and that's when we got the news.
Now I know this is like even I don't think 20 years, 30 years down the line, like it's got to be difficult to talk about and really dig into. Um, and I'm listening to the scenario, and I've never lost a child. I've lost people I love, and how how did you and your husband deal with that situation the next few days, and then also because you have a daughter, so you just can't stop being a parent. You still have to provide. right? So how does that look?
You know what? You actually can stop being everything for everyone
Mm,
in the moment. You would assume that you still could continue the way you were doing everything, looking after everybody. But for me, that shock, I would say, pretty much crippled me. Uh, I was in complete disbelief, panic, and I just couldn't. I just didn't believe anything. And it was the same for for my ex-husband. We just came home afterwards. We sat there, and that day, my entire life shifted completely. I would say all lights were turned off for me, and that happened pretty fast, pretty fast. And it was different for us as a family because I was always the strong one, the one who kept everything and everybody together, the leader of the pack. And in that moment, it is the weakest I've ever been in my entire life. And I lost my balance. I lost control. I lost myself. And I no longer could be who I was for anyone or for myself. So it was a different dynamic for us in our household, completely different. And that threw me and everyone else in a tailspin pretty much because they're also having to handle the loss, the news, but then to look at me who would always have an answer or a suggestion, and I didn't have one. I needed the answers. I needed the suggestions. At that point, the role completely changed.
so I'm listening from a different lens. So I don't know this. So I know that the Tamara you described before, strong, one that's gonna set a goal and smash it, the one that's gonna accomplish it. So when I'm hearing this, it I'm not in shock, I can say, but it almost I could see where I could see that you that situation changed you and made you who you're becoming. I say becoming because you're not done. Like
Absolutely not.
you're so and not that that we wish loss on anyone, but hard times create like strong people. Because to get through it, I could just imagine. I mean, I'm trying to imagine, and I can't even fathom it. Like you probably didn't want to go on. Like I'm not saying you would want to take your life, but it was like you didn't see the light. It was like you were in this situation and you didn't see what was next because everything you envisioned was gone. So if that was the case, like what changed or what broke, right? Because I don't recall you still married. So I think a lot of things broke during that process. So how did everything just kind of like just take?
You know what? It was years. I grieved for years. Am I still grieving now? Yeah. But I found ways, healthier ways to handle it, to make sure I'm not hurting others while I grieve and be a little bit more aware. During that initial stage of grieving, it's the first in my life really I've had to deal with anything like that. And it was really hard for me because of the relationship I had with Stephen. I didn't just lose my son. At that moment, I had two children, but for me, this is someone I grew up with, having had him from I'm 19 years old, being pregnant at 18. So it was always us in the beginning. And I would rely on him for a lot of things. As much as he was only 19 years old, he would be my go-to. I would be the one to call him sometimes and say, hey, kid, meet me at this spot for lunch. Just you and I. I have to talk to you about something. So he was well above his years, very mature. And we were like brothers and sisters, being grown up with me having him such a young age and having to have that bond. And from where we're coming from. So he knew me before I even figured out what I wanted to do with myself as a teenager, deciding, for adulthood. So he helped to guide me along my early adulthood as to my behaviors, what I would do. When I would do something, I would actually stop to think, okay, now I have a boy. How would that look? What happens if he becomes at this age and remembers I did that or did that, something else. So in the initial, it was really hard. And I think the way how I handled it, which I could have not done it any other way, unless I was going to become non-existent. So I handled it the best way I could in the moment. And I am grateful that I had my ex-husband at that time. And, he and I are like best friends. We're still very, very good friends. It's just that the grief actually did pull us apart. And my family, I'm telling you, when you say the rock, they are the rock. So there were some serious struggles for me initially, serious struggles. And yes, it may not have cost me my life, but there are times I thought of it costing me my life because the pain was just so hard. And I just could not bear the pain at times. I didn't know how or what to do to just ease the pain that I felt. I was heartbroken. I mean, literally heartbroken, where I did not see anything good that was happening. And as a result of that, I overlooked a lot of people in my life. I overlooked, most importantly, my daughter. I completely overlooked that she was still there and she needed me more than anything else, being only 9 years old. And she stepped up to the plate. Where at many times we're home and there are times I was depressed and I couldn't get out of bed. And she would be left with me in the mornings and she would be the one to say, okay, mom, I'm dressed now for school. Are you going to get up or what? Are you going to take me to school or what? And I would lay there and I can't move. So I failed her in many, many ways for many, many years. But I just could not do any better. I did not know what to do. There were support systems, but the pain was just too much for me. It was just really, really too much for me. And it cost me relationships, friendships. Um, it people can take so much and no more, I guess. It ended up costing me, people drifting apart because you can't be who you are, who you were, and you're completely different. And because of that, people don't like what they see or who you are now. And that's okay. So people had to transition out of my life. I am very grateful though that through the transition and the testing times, there were some persons who never left, who stuck it out with me, even if, I remember my mom, sometimes I don't want to talk. I would just disappear. Nobody can find me. I turn my phone off and I'm gone. But when I turn back up, I turn up back at home, there would be my mom and my brothers and my sister just sitting outside in the car waiting for me, just waiting for me. And I think that level of support really helped to get me to where I am now. And fast forward and, I ended up we divorced, we went our separate ways, but wasn't a divorce where I hate you, I have to leave, or you did something. It was just two different people now at two different places in life. And we went our separate ways, remained friends, and still are, and definitely co-parents, which is good. So luckily that didn't cost us or friendship. And my daughter, she unfortunately, I would say, suffered most because of how I grieved in the early part and because of me not being able to reassure her that although I have lost one child, I still have her and she is equally important for me to move forward, to keep going as a mother. Now, does it mean that I didn't do what I had to do? Yes, I still did what I had to do. However, emotionally, I was not there. I was completely unavailable, detached, incompetent. And that really caused us as she, became older in at teenage years to, have some resentment at first until now she's much older and I'm in a better place. And I can see that for me being in a better place now, it really has healed us or relationships or family in a lot of ways. So it really was struggle. It really was struggle. But I could not have done it any other way.
Great to see people be resilient. Use the word resilient because that's the word of the week. Fitness. So I know you heard that word over the last month. And then I also want to say kind of like almost like I told you so situation because um, two, maybe 3 years ago, around senior year, junior, senior year with your daughter, right? You were struggling.
I
And
was.
we would come to the gym, and part of your workout would be, you know, um, trying to figure out the relationship with your daughter. And I told you, just from experience of moms and daughters, because I have sisters and daughters and sisters and daughters. I have sisters and a mom, and I watch them. And I was like, listen, as soon as she goes away to school, everything's gonna change. As soon as she goes, because I don't know what it is about leaving the nest for especially more so most women than men. You start to realize, which like a lot. And now like I haven't said nothing. I didn't do. I didn't. I'm doing it live, on the show. But I didn't do it to you in person when you would come say, "Oh my, I'm going to see my daughter. Oh, I'm going to Jamaica with my daughter and her friends." Like all these things that you started doing. That I don't know if you knew that was going to happen when she was still in the nest.
You know what? I partly agree with what you're saying, but if I didn't make some effort for change and do something differently, spend time with me, focus on growing, focus on healing, and really reassessing the relationship, taking responsibility for some of, the behaviors, my behaviors. I had to spend a lot of time to do that and make a change. And even if I didn't do it, I don't think our relationship would be where it is. And I still try to do it. It is a work in progress because if I'm going to sit here and tell you, oh no, I've gotten over Stephen, I'm good. No, I've not gotten over Stephen. I'll never get over Stephen. He's going to be 32 next month. And as it draws closer to the time, I feel this clench in my heart. But the same clench I felt October 13th, 2000, and 13. So it's no different. The same clench I felt October 14th, 2013. The same clench I felt when I had him October 17th, 1993. That pain, that thing that sits in a parent heart, you know. So if I say, oh, I'm okay now and we're good, it is constant work, but my choices are different. The way I approach how I respond to my pain is completely different. And I see where it helps our relationship. And because now I enjoy, she's at that age, you're right, Joaquin. I walk up in the gym and I'm excited. Oh, we're going so and so next week. Oh, we worked out. I love it that now she's in the gym too. And so when I visit her, we go to the gym together.
She used to come and watch.
Yeah, she used to come and watch, and now she's in the gym. So it is work. It is work, but I'm happy that we're getting there. It's still work for us. I can tell you that if I don't continue to work on myself, I can lose a grip of that again. So it is continued effort.
I think at some point in our lives, we realize that. At some point, we realize that we're a work in progress till the last breath. And when you realize that, it's almost like a sigh of relief. There's no like, there's nothing to get us where you want to be and stay there without work. And you may get there, but as soon as you pull off the gas pedal, you're just gonna revert. And what you said about working on I really appreciate it. I think it's really understanding what that means. When you were saying that, I was like, man, like I was so glad she said that, because a lot of people think that they're good to other people. They're good for other people when they're not good on themselves. Like, so if I'm in a terrible mindset and I'm not helping myself,
Yeah.
I am going to be no good to all those people around me. I may be good, like maybe I'm providing, I'm going to work, I'm cooking, but my emotional, maybe I'm lashing out, maybe I'm doing things because I am really not good. And I always say, work on yourself first, and that will allow you to be who you want to be to other people. But if you don't work on yourself, you just try to be who you want to be to other people, you're just gonna be hurting people. And I know from experience, I've hurt a lot of people through my pain. Like, my pain much different than your pain, but I've hurt people because I've become shut down. I've become non-existent emotionally because I was suffering and I was unable to express that. And my greatest, I think, accomplishment now is that, like with my kids, and one understands and one doesn't right now, is that I can tell them my pain. Like, I don't have no problem saying, hey, I struggle with this. Like, so they know that it's okay to say, okay, like that struggles with that. They don't seem like it, like, because they see us, they look at us, and that's what they see. They don't see, you can't see pain unless I'm mad at that particular moment, right? But it exists. So I appreciate that. So the growth. So now we're gonna get into like the nitty gritty of this in the real growth. So as I said, when I met you, you were in Dr. Tamara Smith. And when I think about that, the years, like 12, 13 years, still have a daughter at home, still have a career. Now, on all of that, grieving, how did you manage to become a doctor?
You know what? I've always wanted to become a doctor. I knew from a very early age I wanted to be called doctor. However, I was very clear it would not be a medical doctor because I don't like the bloody stuff, like medicine.
You don't like
So,
bugs, none of that. Yeah, I know.
You see me at the gym. So I knew that from before, but during the grief and the pain and the distance between my daughter and I spoke, back up a little bit. Before my doctorate, I went ahead and I wanted to find ways of numbing my pain. I wanted to find ways to distract me from focusing on what's present, what's right in front of me. So I've always been quite an academic student growing up, and I love school. So I went back, I did my PMP, Project Management Professional Certification, while I was grieving because I just needed to study. I needed to be in the books. I just needed to figure something else out. I know I was coming to the gym, and thus I started to live heavier because I just wanted that, right? Just something else. And after I achieved my PMP certification, I met a stranger once. The funeral, I met someone, and we went on afterwards talking about school. And I remember he was doing his master's, and we're talking about school. I said, yes, I have my master's. We're talking about our profession, which were similar. And I said, but I really want to do my doctorate. I'd always wanted to be Dr. Tammy. And he said, so why don't you do it? You can do it. As if it's nothing, as if it's the easiest thing. You just get up and do it. And that stuck with me, just to have someone, the way how he said it resonated. And I remember coming home and thinking on it. And I said, ding, 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 ding. That could be a challenge. That could be a distractor. That could be something I do to help me during the process and also for me to achieve what I want ultimately in life, one of my life goals. And I enrolled in school and decided to be a doctor, get my doctoral degree. I did it more so for my daughter because at that time I wanted to show her I'm not so weak after all. I really wanted to prove to her that I'm just not the weak mom that lays in bed when you want to go to school and I can't get up to take you to school because I just couldn't get one foot off the bed, right? I'm not the weak mom that sits around crying for hours at night, just can't stop uncontrollably. And I'm not the weak mom that still keeps Steven's toothbrush after so many years and just can't part with anything and goes in his room every day talking to him as if he's still there. So I wanted to do something major, something bold, something that's not easy for everybody to get. And I thought this terminal degree would be it for me. It would be what I do for me to get my strength, confidence, to figure out how to get my life back. So I embarked on it. And it was one of the hardest decisions I ever made. I thought of quitting so many times. But I remember my nephew moving in with me for 6 months, and he would be on top of me every night. You got this, doctor. You got this, doctor. Before I even got the doctorate, the first semester in, he's cheering me on, doctor, doctor. So, that alone kind of inspired me, just to use my situation, use what was against me to prove to myself and to show my daughter who I could become. And so I went ahead and I did it. It was during COVID time and it was hard. It's a lot of work. I remember spending 12-hour days just researching, writing. But again, I have the best family in the world, no contest. And my mother is just awesome. My brother is my sister. And my mother would cook my dinner every week, pack it out. My brother, my nephew would drop it off for me. So I wouldn't have to worry about cooking or taking care of my daughter while I study. So I had very good support. My best friend would be the one to take care of my daughter. If I, be studying and she doesn't want to talk to me and she's hungry, she would just call her, which she lives like in another state, but she would make sure everything is going while I'm working on my studies. So the harder it was for me in getting it done, the more momentum I had, because I know I needed to get this done. I wanted to prove to Stephen, because he only knows the strong mommy. He didn't know the mom that I had fallen into, and I don't know if he would have been so hyped about how low I got in my life. And I needed to do it for my children, and I'm so happy I was able to do that. So here I am, Dr. Tamara B. Smith.
Amazing. And I took two, and I was looking for my pen, someone to write them down. And I found it after I applied for it. You took two important things that really resonated with me. One, and it wasn't really one thing you said, it was the support from your family. For me, I think that's what our world needs, is the community of people helping other people get to the place that they want to be, and that will help the community. And in the world that we live in, I see it within my group, because I have a group of you and the people you met, some of my friends that, like, almost everybody I'm with is trying to help others get better and help themselves get better. But we don't see that enough throughout the world. We don't see these knit communities where when one person's falling, everyone else is there trying to pick them up. And that's significant. And I really want people to understand how important it is and try to become that person that is always there to help people, not step on people, but help pick people up. And then the second one is, I'm kind of losing my thought. That's why I wanted to write it down, because start talking and you forget what you're gonna say. I'm gonna bypass it now and see if it comes back in a second. But so you got the doctrines now, and you're moving on. So you have a bachelor's, master's, doctrine, a divorce, lost a child, a daughter. I mean, like, if you're writing a book on your autobiography, it's like it's somewhat of a roller coaster of like a life once you get into that parenthood, like late parenthood. And I don't really think that is. I mean, it's tragic, but life is much like a roller coaster. Like, describe the emotions of like you got your doctrines, and then your daughter goes to school. Like, how much further after that? Like, so you went from, losing a child in tragedy, losing a husband, um, a humble breakup, but nothing. But it's still a breakup. It's still a breakup. And then now your daughter's gone. So now it's just you. And your daughter took the dog too, right?
I lost the dog. She took the dog from me. She made us get the dog a few years ago, like right after Stephen died, because she said, I don't want to be an only child. So we got the dog. I hated the stupid dog, right? At first I was like, I hate this dog. This dog shouldn't be here. But let me tell you, I fell in love, because when my daughter moved away to college, she left the dog with me. And as you know, I came into the gym and I will be talking about the dog every morning. I fell in love, and that dog, I must say to you, I don't know how I didn't tell you about the dog saving me. I don't know what I would have done when my daughter was away for the first year of college, because we were still not where we wanted, what I would have wanted our relationship to be, and being home in this house alone. And even in our senior year, where she wasn't at home with me, I don't know what I would have done without the dog being there. She is a faithful companion, I must tell you that. Late night study, she's by my foot. And we build this bond, the dog and I. And then the child and I got on good terms. She took away my only company, the dog. So now I'm definitely an empty nester.
And it's so, one thing about pets and people, like, when you find, it's hard to replace. Like, you might want to get one, but it's like, okay, I don't really like dogs. And what if this dog turns out to be not like My dog.
Layla, like
Right.
Layla.
And so I know that because I've lost many dogs. I believe that this is good stuff. So I speak. We do a thing with the brothers that a guy in our group from an organization called Hype does, and it's called Speak Life into a Brother. But I want you to speak life into a mother, a mother that's going through loss or something similar to you. It doesn't have to be the same. It's just it could be similar. Like people, one person is like I mean, I devastated my mother for years because when I hated myself, I had to find somebody to blame, and the easiest person to blame is your parents. So I cut my mother off for a long time and didn't speak to her because I was angry at her because I felt that some of the things that she did made me do the dumb things I did later on in life. Right? Go figure. But that's what we do as people, right? So how do you speak? Like take like 30 seconds to a minute and speak life into someone that's going through some kind of struggle. Like what would you say to someone like just struggling with life? Preferably a mother.
It's very, very important for us to not stay down in it for too long. It can cost relationships and sometimes even our own lives or even our future. And if you have that support system, if you have family, friends, community, a resource like Mary's Place for grieving families, then reach out and use these resources that are available to you. You're not weak if you use the resources. We don't have to do it alone. We don't have to go through grief alone because it sucks. And for those mothers or fathers out there who have other children, don't overlook them in the process. I know it's easier said than done. I didn't realize that I was overlooking. I thought I was still doing everything as a mother, but emotionally I was so completely far gone. So pay attention to your other children, your family, your significant others. And while you may not be the same person that you were before the tragedy, you don't have to be that person who loses everything else that is present. So find ways to get the help and get the help quick. Don't let it get too far gone before you reach out for help.
Thank you. I know people appreciate that. And we are concluding this wonderful episode. And I want to thank Tamara, my friend, first, because I've seen you turn pain into power. And maybe like there's no timeline on when you develop. So a genius can develop at 11 and a non-reader could start reading or begin their reading process at 5 and never go beyond. Like there's no timeline to like, okay, I got to be healed in 2 months. Like people put timelines on everything, and there's no timeline on anything. As long as you're working towards that goal, and you're strong, and strong mentally, physically, emotionally, and in every sense of the word. And I just want you to know that. And you sometimes I think I need to get stronger to be within your presence. And I'm Jesus. Oh, look at that's nasty. You got me sweating up in here. Yeah, hold on. Let me put my arms down.
Don't worry, I'll catch you on Thursday mornings.
So This is wonderful stuff, and I make sure you pass this on to any friend that you know who's grieving, who's hurting, because this is sometimes you just need to hear other people who've gone through these processes to let you know that you can make it through. And there's plenty of trailblazers like Tamara that have gone through this and that have made a great life. And it doesn't mean you don't. My grandfather used to say to me, don't feel guilty for moving forward after tragedy. And he said so many wonderful and amazing things. And I never understood what that meant. And I guess he was preparing me for him going because, you know, you never think your grandparents going to go when you're a kid because they're just everything. And so, you know, don't feel guilty for having a great life after tragedy, you know, because you didn't, the tragedy is not your fault. No big guilt, don't feel guilt. Another episode of Shades of a Man podcast with this beautiful, intelligent woman. And see, you know, she put the glasses back on because she's a doctor at the end.
Yeah.
Close up with the intelligent part. Say bye to the fans. And you guys stay blessed.
Thanks for having me, Joaquin.
Oh, thanks for coming. This was wonderful. I can't wait to listen to the show when I'm in my car one day. Bye-bye.
Great. You have a good one. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You don't have to go.
Yeah. Sometimes it might rain, sometimes it might snow, sometimes you might cry, be sad, you know what that's shades of a man, baby. Shades of a man, shades of a man. Sometimes you might stop, sometimes you might go. You might make mistakes, but that's just how you grow. Shades of a man, baby. Shades of a man, shades of a man.